Welcome back to Umineko. Let's begin. Jessica's cheeks had been stuffed with a chocolate-coated chinsuko biscuit that Shannon had brought as a present from Okinawa. And it all came flying out of Shannon when Jessica cried out. Or flying out at Shannon.
Shannon さ、何のために沖縄まで旅行に行ったんだよ。それもジョージ兄さんと二人っきりで。
Did that even count as this? Was that even like the same scene that we saw, or what? Because that didn't seem like practice, the one we saw. It seemed like they were already together. Unless they were just acting, which I don't think was the case.
それはとても大きな水族館が沖縄にあるから、ぜひ行こうって誘われて。私、お魚とか好きですし。いや、だからさ、健全な男女がお泊まりありで旅行に行ったわけだろ。それでチューもなければギューもないのかよ。ましてや部屋は男女に別部屋ってなんだよ。チューについてはノーコメントです。でもギューはありましたよ。ジョージさんの胸温かかったです。そういうことじゃねえぜ。なあもう、なんだってこんなカップルがいるんだよ。なあもう、じれってえぜ。
From Shannon's point of view, it was an incredibly happy trip for various reasons. But it looked like Jessica found their pace to be pretty irritating. It's kind of funny that if you think about it, maybe Jessica was the one to sleep in the same room as George before Shannon. For a while, Jessica chewed her present, complaining about romance and pretending to faint in agony on her bed. Shannon and George had chosen to go to Okinawa because there was a huge aquarium there. They did this because an aquarium had given them the opportunity to start going out. Since their relationship had started at an aquarium, having their first overnight trip also to be at an aquarium must have held some commemorative value. Okay, so they were already dating when we saw them there.
初のお泊まり旅行なら、いろいろと進展するもんがあるはずだぜ。それが、男女別部屋？カップルでシングルを2部屋？ああ、もう、本当にどうかしてるぜ。それはお互い独身の男女ですし、ジョージさんがそこをしっかりするのが男女のマナーだとおっしゃって。だから、それを踏み越えるためのお泊まり旅行じゃねえのかよ。もはやキューとかギューとかのレベルじゃねえぜ。お嬢様がどういう意味でおっしゃってるのかわかりませんが、ジョージ様は最後まで本当に紳士でいてくださいました。それは私もそういうことがあるか。でも私って別に結婚してるわけじゃないし。お嬢様が期待されている、ちゃんと神様の
Shannon's face got bright red. She made a circle with both hands, restlessly intertwining, separating, and making heart marks with them. Apparently, the dramatic progress Jessica had looked forward to hadn't happened, but it seemed to have been a very important experience for Shannon in her own way. In the end, whether Jessica was jealous of Shannon or made fun of her, didn't change the fact that Shannon had a huge lead on her.
シャノン、お嬢様は素敵な方ですから、私なんかよりきっと素敵な方がすぐに現れます。そういう慰めはいらねえぜ。シャロンの裏切り者、出ていけ、うぜ
え！Jessica threw several cushions at her, but midway, she had an asthma attack and started to choke pretty badly. Shannon hurriedly ran over to a nearby side table and started searching around on top of it. A cute basket was placed there, and inside of it was Jessica's bronchodilator. Shannon picked it up and handed it over to Jessica. Jessica's asthma attacks always came suddenly. Because of that, she always needed to carry this medicine around. She breathed in the medicine and, after a while, managed to overcome her choking as her asthma finally settled down. Shannon thought this is a good chance to leave and tried to exit the room after bowing courteously. As she did, one more small cushion came flying and hit Shannon on the head. She noticed that Jessica was on the verge of crying, half of her face buried in her last and favorite cushion. That face was red and meek.
お嬢様？シャノンさ、正直に言って、私、髪型とか、変かな？まさか。お嬢様の髪は、とてもお美しいと思います。じゃあ、目とか変かな？鼻とか変じゃないかな？やっぱり、喋り方がダメなのかな？だから彼氏できないのかな？そんなはずはありませんよ。お嬢様は、そのままで十分に素敵です。そして、その魅力は、これからもっともっと増していくと思いますよ。でも、私だけ彼氏できない。サクもヒナも彼氏できたのに、私にだけできないよ。やっぱり、私には魅力ないからかな。みんなね、文化祭に彼氏連れてくるんだって。私もその日までにはきっと彼氏いるって思って、大見え切って、彼氏なんてできやしない。私だけ。
Before she realized it, Jessica was shedding huge tears. Jessica didn't really feel like crying, and of course, she felt like supporting Shannon's progress in love as a friend. However, as she had cheered Shannon on, her true feelings had suddenly gotten mixed in, and she couldn't help but shed tears. Shannon understood Jessica's innocent and easily injured heart. The rough style of speech Jessica usually used. It's all just an attempt to protect that fragile heart. As a daughter and successor to the Yoshida-miya family, and as a girl isolated on Rokkenjima, the only person she could expose her true feelings to was Shannon. Shannon understood that, so she strongly regretted acting smug, even if it was only a little.
ごめん、涙出ちゃうなんて、私変だぜ。ごめん。お嬢様は素敵な方です。そんなお嬢様に素敵な男性が現れないわけがありません。シャノン、もう時間だろ？早く行かないとまた現地さんや母さんに怒られるぜ。 私は全然平気だから早く行きなよ。悪いな、泣いちゃったりなんかしてさ。バカみてえだぜ、私。
Jessica faced away, acting as though she didn't really want to trouble Shannon, waving her hand as though chasing Shannon away. Shannon took that as a sign that Jessica didn't want to be bothered anymore, bowed her head, and left the room. When Shannon's footsteps disappeared into the distance, Jessica lay down on her bed, still hugging a cushion. Her expression was still a little meek, with tears in her eyes. But for the first time in a long time, she had a very, very quiet and honest conversation with her heart.
私も恋がしたい。
As Shannon happily watered the flower beds in the garden, she sensed someone's presence. She turned around, thinking that if one of the family had come to visit, she must greet them. But what she saw was that witch.
ベアトリーチェ様。
久しぶりよの。どうだ？その後、そなたの思い人との仲は順調か？
As Beatrice sat on the rose ark, she happily blew on her pipe. Sitting in a place like that would crush the roses, and it might have been dangerous if the arch fell over, but this was a witch after all. Showing concern for her safety was probably a waste of time.
はい、おかげさまで順調です。
当然よ。わらわの魔法はてきめんである。そなたにはまるで、二人が出会うのはあらかじめ決められた運命であったかのように感じているかもしれん。だがそれは間違いよ。夢、運命だなどと思うでないぞ。
それは分かってます。
The witch was calling attention to something. Two things, actually. First, that Shannon's relationship with George was a fate that'd be absolutely impossible under normal circumstances. Second, that the power of the witch was great enough to overturn that fact. Shannon had just gotten wrapped up in those sweet days and had started believing the illusion that all fate revolved around her. But she remembered the witch's words. Originally, her relationship with George had been impossible. No, it might be impossible in the future as well.
すまぬ。医者と同じよ。病に悩めばすがるくせに、治れば感謝も忘れる。魔女が感謝された試しはないのでな。つい卑屈になってしまった。許すがいい。
感謝の気持ちを忘れたことはありません。ベアトリーチェ様のお力で幸せな思いができていること。そして、そのお力がなければ、私とジョージ様が寄り添う運命がなかったこと。決して忘れたことはありません。
すまぬ。いじめに来たわけではないのにな。口が悪いのはわらわが性分。許されよ。それより、聞いたぞ。二人きりで旅行に行ったとな。さぞや楽しかったであろう。
はい、とても楽しかったです。
Shannon's face suddenly lit up. The witch laughed lightly as though amused by the speed of that transformation.
もはやそなたの思い人は一方的に思うだけの存在ではない。互いに思われる恋人同士よ。愛に満たされた二人にとって 世界はただそれだけで成立する。素晴らしき理想の世界かな。魔女も焼こうというもの。
Beatrice laughed pleasantly. That smile made her look as though she blessed the lovers' rendezvous from the bottom of her heart without a trace of malice. After that day, Beatrice had shown herself beyond Shannon every once in a while. Even now, Shannon thought of her as an unsettling being. However, she was also indebted to this person for the magic that led to her current relationship with George. So Shannon tried with all her might not to act surprised or scared.
そうだった。ベアトリーチェ様、旅行のお土産にお菓子を買ってきたんです。よかったらベアトリーチェ様もいかがでしょうか。
ほう。魔女に土産とな。
It seemed that even a witch who boasted of living for 1,000 years hadn't imagined that she'd receive a souvenir from a sweet lover's trip. When she saw that surprised expression, Shannon thought of this witch as a friend for the first time.
ほほう。ラードと小麦粉で作った東洋クッキーか。それを西洋風にチョコで包むとは、まさに和洋折衷、菓子のシルクロードよの。
You know, like, what I want to think right now, or what I would be thinking right now, if it weren't for that one image that I showed a while back, I would be thinking that Shannon was the killer, and that this is all kind of like making it seem like everything points to Shannon, but I feel like that's not going to be the case. Like, I don't know whether I would actually think that that is the case if I didn't have the tidbit about Goda, but I feel like either one of those two could be potentially the killer anyway. At least for the 6 earlier who died originally. And then it would also have to be a suicide, I guess.
なんだ。何がおかしい？
いえ、失礼いたしました。
This witch, who surely held a terrifying power, was chomping down on sweets one after another, making a sound like a squirrel stuffing walnuts into its mouth. After a while, Shannon couldn't conceal her laughter.
しそうになったぞ。そなたには今度、ネロのドルチェビータでも振る舞おうぞ。バラは永遠の愛の象徴。今のそなたには、バラのドルチェこそがふさわしかろう。
The witch was in a great mood, fully enjoying modern candy.
これ、本当にありがとうございました。もう私には十分だと思いますので、お返しします。
The thing Shannon had softly set on the table was a gold-colored butterfly brooch.
返さずともよい。それに、持ち続けていれば、二人の仲はこれからも永劫に盤石であろうが。
出会いのきっかけは確かに魔法の力で与えてもらったかもしれません。でもその出会いを永遠のものにする努力は二人で協力し合って続けていくものだと思います。
愛もバラと同じか。過ぎた世日は根を腐らせる。苦労せねば育めぬ花もあろう。ならば好きにするがよい。身につけず宝石箱の中にしまうもよかろう。それはそなたに送ったわらわの好意だ。それを返されてはわらわも愉快ではない。
申し訳ございません。そういう意味で言ったわけじゃ。
気を害してなどおらぬ。そのブローチはすでにそなたのもの。わらわとの友情の証にせいぜい大事にしてくれれば少しは気も慰む。持ち続け、そのご利益を得るもよし、宝石箱にしまい込むもよし、望むなら恋路に悩む別の者に譲ろうと。ただ大事にしてくれればよい。さすがに粗末にされては心が痛むでな。
According to Beatrice, she had appeared several times in the past in response to a person's summons, to give them some tool imbued with magic power. However, when most people used that power to resolve their worries, they quickly grew unsettled by it, forgot their former gratitude, and threw away the tools they had been given with disgust.
だからわらわの行為に素直に感謝された試しは多くない。いや、初めてか。
The witch laughed heartily, but it looked like a sad laugh in Shannon's eyes. It's hard to tell how much of what she's saying is genuine, though. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I really don't have a read on her yet, in terms of, like, what her personality is like. She herself had been like that in the past. No, maybe she was like that now. Beatrice was definitely a witch, with a strange and terrifying power. Most people probably wouldn't want to stick around her if they could help it. Surely even those who had relied on that strange power sometimes felt fear rather than gratitude as a result. It must have deeply hurt the witch to have that happen over and over again. Since the time she had started thinking that way, Shannon had tried to stop being frightened of Beatrice. This was surely something that had tormented the witch for over 1,000 years. Maybe she really liked those sweets. Beatrice, who normally spoke abusively, praised the black tea that Shannon served her and looked to be in remarkably high spirits. After doing that for a while, the witch and the servant grew animated in their discussion of the trip with George. The things Shannon actually knew about Beatrice were surprisingly few. First off, she was a ghost-like being who appeared in unexpected places at unexpected times. It seemed that not everyone could perceive that she was there. Apparently everyone has something called a wavelength. The ability to perceive witches varies greatly among different people. Only Shannon and Canon could interact with her enough to exchange words like this. There were a few people who could sense her presence, but most people couldn't even feel that much. From what Beatrice said, Kraus and his wife in particular had zero magical talent. No matter how much she followed them around, they would never notice her. Once earlier, when Shannon messed up and Natsuhi got really mad at her, Beatrice had started playing around, hitting Natsuhi on the head with her pipe. I see, Natsuhi really doesn't notice a thing. But Shannon, watching that, had burst out laughing without thinking, and had gotten scolded even more.
なら、親方様だったらどうでしょうか。魔法の研究とかをなさっているそうですし、きっとベアトリーチェ様のお姿にも気づいてくださると思います。
So I'm interested to hear.
金蔵も同じよ。あれにも気の毒なくらいに魔法の才能がない。血だな。同情に値するほど才能がない。
As soon as they started talking about Kinzo, it felt like the atmosphere around Beatrice changed. She had spoken about Kraus and the rest's lack of magic talent as though she looked down on them. She spoke of Kinzo in a different way. Well, he must have at least seen her once. Maybe when she was alive rather than when she was still like a spirit. Because, like he had the portrait commissioned and everything, he would have had to have been able to describe her. Anyone connected to the Ushidamiya family would know about Kinzo's legend of the gold. According to that, Kinzo was given the gold after summoning the witch Beatrice. In other words, she must have had some kind of relationship with Kinzo.
だからあれは才能のひとかけらもないくせに至ったのだ。狂ったように独学を重ね、魔術師の域にまで達した。
それはとてもすごいことなんですね。
うん。
The witch, who usually looked down on people, was uncharacteristically offering her praise. While she lambasted him by saying he had no talent, she praised his efforts.
そして親方様は魔法の力でベアトリーチェ様を呼び出した。
うん。まあ召喚に応えたのは気まぐれだ。魔法を否定して久しいこのご時世に才能のかけらもない者が必死にやっているのでな。少しからかってやろうと思ったのがわらわの運の尽きよ。
Her choice of words highlighted how much of a disaster this had been for her. Shannon hesitated over whether it would be safe to continue this discussion, but Beatrice continued on her own, ignoring Shannon.
一応書式もルールも揃っていた。いくつかの作法が混在していたが、まあその熱意に免じ寛大に契約に応じてやったのだ。そしてわらわは山なす黄金を与えてやった。
そして親方様はその黄金を使って事業を成功させ、今日の財をなすのですね。
うん。魔法の才能はからっきしだが、商才と莫才はあったようだな。いや、理不尽なる賭けにすべてを賭す勇気と狂気ゆえにか。狂気は時に魔力に通ずる。なるほど。その点から見れば、金蔵に魔法の才能が全くなかったとは言い切れんか。
Shannon felt like she was daydreaming. While everyone in the Yoshidomiya family knew the story of how Kinzo idolized black magic, summoned a witch, and received the gold. In actuality, it was all rambling that no one believed in. And now Shannon was having this story confirmed by the witch herself. She felt a little flustered by this incredible secret that only she knew.
そして、莫大な財産を得た金蔵は、人の世で手に入れることのできるすべての夢を叶えきった。そして、最後に世界の真理を求めたのだ。
世界の真理？
世界を構成する一なる元素。人の世で得られるすべてを満たした金蔵は、人が求める最後の欲望として、それを欲したのだ。
Single element. I seem to remember the witch using that word before. When Beatrice saw Shannon trying to remember what that was, she laughed bitterly, waving her hand and saying there was no need to worry.
わらわも金蔵を少し見くびっていた。まさかあれほどの力を見せるとは思わなかったのでな。おかげでこのざまだ。茶飲み友達もなく、この島にもう何十年も縫い止められている。誰に話しかけようとも声は届かず、どこへ行くこともできない。なんとも退屈な数十年だったことよ。
As she laughed in self-derision, she tapped her teacup with her finger. It made the light sound of pottery. Shannon didn't know whether the word self-derision was really an accurate expression to describe the look on the witch's face. Shannon Didn't understand everything, but she could more or less figure out the situation. And it was probably a topic that she couldn't press the witch on easily, not unless the witch started talking about it herself. To sum up everything she had said until now, Beatrice, who had been summoned by Kinzo's magic, could not leave this island for some reason. She had lost her power and her form, living her days in boredom. During that time, her words had reached Shannon, who never forgot to show sincere respect for the witch. And Shannon had helped this witch regain her power, if only a little bit. As a result, it was now possible for the witch to drink tea with Shannon like this.
Beatrice 様が私に割るように言ったあの鏡は一体何なのですか？
ああ、その話か。この辺りの島で大昔いろいろとあったらしくてな。そのせいで良くないものがたまり、悪い歪みを引き寄せていたのだ。それを旅の東洋魔術師か何かが鎮魂の社を建立して封じ込めたらしい。それ自体はわらわとはどうでもいいことなのだが、困ったことに魔力の基礎が違っててな。わらわの魔力にも強い干渉を及ぼしておって非常に迷惑していたのだ。
そうだったんですか。私はてっきりベアトリーチェ様を封じていたものだとばかり。
わらわを対象にしたものではない。だが神格のある鏡だったからな。結果としてわらわの力を封じ込めていたわけだ。料理に例えるならこうか。わらわの注文した西洋料理が厨房でまさに料理されているとする。ところがいざ配膳しようとしたら、客席は日本風で懐石料理が並べられている場だった。だから厨房は場違いな皿を出せず、わらわのところへはいつまで経っても西洋料理が届かないといった感じよの。だからそなたに日本風の客席を打ち壊し、場を一度白紙に戻させたのだ。そのおかげでようやくわらわの注文した料理が届き、力が戻ったというところか。もっとも、ようやく食前酒が届いたというところよ。
I don't actually know what that word means. Aperitif. I'd have to look that up after.
メインディッシュにはまだまだ遠い。今のわらわなど、靴屋の妖精にも劣る希薄な存在でな。ん？何がおかしい？
魔女様の例えがあまりに面白かったもので、まさか魔法の話がお料理の話に例えられるとは思いませんでした。
我ながらうまい表現だったつもりだが、よもや笑われるとは思わなかったぞ。少し心外だ。
A slightly sulky expression rose to the witch's face. It wasn't a strange expression at all to be appearing on the face of some friends as they enjoyed their tea.
こう見えても、昔は残酷極まりないことで知られたわらわだったが、丸くなったものよ。人間とこうしてたあいない話で茶を交わせるようになるのだから。
She was probably talking to herself. As Beatrice gazed at the sea, birds tracing the horizon, she put her tea to her lips again.
雲が出てきたな。海も精彩をかけば灰色の水たまりに過ぎぬ。
そうでしょうか。曇っても海は美しくて真っ青だと思います。
Maybe the witch noticed the deep meaning behind Shannon's words. She She laughed lightly and set down her empty teacup.
もはやそなたの両目に埋められているのは黒い石ころではないらしい。どうだ、家具から人間に生まれ変わった気持ちは理解できておるか？
はい。世界がこんなにも優しかったなんて知りませんでした。
Well, it's not really the world that was kind, I guess. It's Beatrice. Since the start of her relationship with George, Shannon's face had grown brighter more often. Her smile had made everything go smoothly and had even changed her fortune. Shannon made less mistakes in her work than she had before, and the family members' opinion of her was starting to change, slowly. Just the other day, she had been surprised when Krauss, who rarely exchanged words with her, had suddenly started talking to her.
最近いい笑顔をすることが多くなったじゃないか。何か良いことでもあったのかね？
いえ、でも楽しい毎日です。はい。
良いことじゃないか。同じコーヒーなら笑顔で継がれた方がうまいに決まっている。その笑顔でもう一杯頼めんかね？
はい。
That had become a chance for Shannon to gain confidence in herself. Of course, it didn't go beyond her own heart, and it wasn't so big a change that anyone would notice. But she had begun to change, bit by bit. Shannon understood it clearly. Knowing love was the same as gaining a soul, the same as being reborn from furniture into a human. There was absolutely nothing mistaken in Beatrice's words. By knowing love, Shannon had learned what it was to be human.
珍しい茶化をちそうになったな。有意義な時間であった。そろそろ仕事に戻らねばならぬ時間であろう。茶会はこれまでにしよう。そなたとわらわが茶を飲むことを好かん者もおるようでな。
The witch gripped a teaspoon and flipped it with her fingers, sending it up into the air. After that, it was launched by the fingers of some invisible person and flew straight into a nearby bush. The bush shook violently, and Cannon came out. It seemed he had been there for some time, watching their tea party. The spoon was gripped in his hand. If he hadn't caught it in an instant, it might have hit him hard in the forehead and caused him to start oozing blood.
安心せよ。茶会はこれで終わるぞ、カノン。
いつからそこにいたの？声をかけてくれればカノン君の紅茶も入れたのに。
女同士の語らいを邪魔したくなかったのであろう。
Cannon kept silent, but there seemed to be a slightly hostile look in his eyes. On the outside, he acted with respect, but unlike Shannon, Cannon did not trust the witch. Beatrice hit the table with her pipe. The tea set turned into gold butterflies, which flew upwards all at once. They then scattered in every direction, and the cleanup was already done.
楽しかったぞ、シャノン。また縁があれば会おうぞ。まだまだ魔力が足りぬでな。姿を現すのも疲れる。
そんなに疲れるなら二度と現れるな。
Cannon had said it in a small voice, but the witch seemed to have heard it perfectly. She giggled, but did not reply.
シャノン、次の茶会ではジョージとの話をまた聞かせておくれ。人の恋路より甘い茶化は他にない。それではさらばだ。
Beatrice's body also became gold butterflies, which scattered in all directions and disappeared. It was a fantastical and beautiful scene, like a blizzard of gold leaf. For a while, Shannon quietly watched the witch's exit. Canon approached her from behind and spoke with an expression that was drastically different from hers.
姉さん、あいつと付き合っちゃダメだって言ったじゃないか。
ベアトリーチェ様はそんなに悪い人じゃない。確かにちょっと怪しいところはあるけれど。
僕たちにしか姿が見えない時点で十分にうさんくさいよ。あいつは人間じゃない。何を企んでるかわかるものか。
カノン君、それは少し失礼だと思うな。
There's a touch of sternness in Shannon's voice, which was unusual for her. To Canon, who knew her well, she must have sounded extremely stern. Canon, looking excessively surprised, considering Shannon's tone, fell silent.
確かにベアトリーチェ様は人間とは違う。恐ろしい力を持っているし、恐れ敬わなければならない存在だと思う。でも、人間とは違うからといって、それだけを理由に忌み嫌うのは、とても失礼なことだと思うの。
姉さんの言いたいことはわかるよ。姉さんは、あいつにあのブローチをもらってから変わった。まるで魔女の虜だよ。ジョージ様との仲を取り持ってもらって、頭が上がらないんだ。
そんなことを言わないで。
あいつは人間じゃない。何を考えてるかわからない。だから気を許しちゃダメなんだ。そして、人間じゃないのは僕らも同じだよ。姉さん。
Shannon's words grew more serious. Those words probably gouged at Shannon's heart. She bit her lower lip and hung her head.
僕らは家具だ。たとえ名前をもらい、人として接してもらったとしても、僕たちの生まれが変わるわけじゃない。
You were no longer furniture. Those words Beatrice had given her, which had made her happiest, floated through Shannon's mind.
家具じゃないよ。
家具だよ。僕たちは人間未満の存在だよ。姉さんはそこを忘れたふりをして、人間のふりをしているだけ。
I can't remember, but I feel like they had a similar conversation to this in episode 1. But, I can't remember what Shannon's attitude was at the time. I feel like she did actually agree that she was furniture at the time. So I'm wondering if this is actually the same timeline or what.
自分でも分かっているはずだよ。
私、家具じゃないもん。人間だもん。
いや、人間じゃない。僕らには愛する資格も、愛される資格も初めからない。
Shannon's criticism seemed to have shifted away from Shannon's meetings with the witch. Shannon picked up on that quickly.
お嬢様に聞いたよ。正直、呆れたね。ジョージ様と一緒に旅行に出られるなんて、家具の身の程を忘れてるよ。姉さんはあの魔女にそそのかされて、自分が人間になれたと勘違いしてるだけなんだよ。
聞いてカノン君、確かに私たちは家具だよ。人間味を取った未満の存在。でもその満たない分をもし得られたなら、それは人間になれたということじゃないのかな。
そんなものありはしないよ。
あるの。それを得たなら、私たちは家具なんかじゃない人間になれるよ。
バカバカしい。なれるものか。
Canon spat those words out, but did so weakly and turned away. He was probably giving up. After all the suffering he had undergone during those days he had lived as furniture, his heart was firmly sealed.
なれるよ、カノン君も。
If this was a conversation they had for real, though, before, then it does give a lot more meaning to Canon's confrontation with Beatrice.
普通の人間に
よしてよ、魔女の受け売りは。
ベアトリーチェ様に教えてもらったの。私たちは世界の一なる元素を得ることで人間になることができる。それを満たさないならそれは人間じゃない。だから人は一なる元素を得るために生涯を尽くし貫いていく。
姉さんが何を言っているのかわからないね。よまよい事なら聞きたくないよ。
ならカノン君にもわかるように教えてあげるね。ほら、姉さんの指の先を見て。
Shannon quietly pointed at the sea towards the horizon. Shannon didn't understand what she meant and couldn't do anything except look between the horizon and Shannon's expression, which seemed to be posing a riddle.
海。カノン君は海が何色に見える？
It was an extremely simple question. For a while, Canon tried to guess at the meaning behind it. But he couldn't think of anything, so he answered obediently.
パッとしない。ネズミ色だよ。それが何？
Objectively speaking, the sea, laid out beneath a cloudy sky, could probably be described best by Canon's words. But as Shannon closed her eyes and smiled, she shook her head slightly.
私には真っ青に見える。
そういう意味？緑色の信号を青っていうようなものでしょ。
違うの。海は真っ青。私には分かってカノン君には分からないなら、これがつまりそういうことなの。
Canon bit his lower lip and was silent for a while.
わからないよ。僕には。
カノン君、手を出して。
As Canon was taken aback, unable to understand what she was saying, she took his arm and opened up the palm of his hand. Shannon softly said something there. It was that magic brooch which she had received from Beatrice. Magic charm shaped like a gold butterfly that could bring love to fruition.
これはあいつの。
これは私の。だから私だと思って粗末にしないで。
After being spoken to like that, he couldn't just throw it away. Canon didn't know what he should do, and he stood there confused for a while, the brooch still on the palm of his hand. Shannon put the palm of her hand on top of Canon's. The brooch was warmed by both of their hands.
これは本当の魔法の力を持ったお守り。きっとカノン君に大切な気持ちを教えてくれると思うの。
あいつの魔法で教えられることなんて何もない。
あるの。だから身につけて。恥ずかしければ懐に忍ばせておくだけでもいいそうなの。
バカバカしい。あいつの魔法なんかに惑わされてたまるか。
Even as he said that, Canon couldn't be cold-hearted towards something Shannon was urging him to take. In the end, Canon took it and agreed reluctantly, saying he'd prove that he wouldn't surrender to the witch's power. Shannon smiled and nodded back.
きっとカノン君は大切なことを学べるよ。きっと人間になれるから。そうすればきっとカノン君にもこの海が美しい青に見えるに違いない。
ネズミ色は何度見たってネズミ色さ。
違うよカノン君。そう見えるのは愛がないから。
I mean, she just straight up said that. I don't know why they blocked it, like, made it asterisks. She clearly said love. Maybe it was also blocked out in Japanese in the text, but not in the voice. Oh, that's why. Because of the howling wind, he hadn't been able to catch the main point of what she just said. So Shannon said it once more. Single element of the world. She spoke once more. The world where it existed. Where the sea was deep blue.
きっとカノン君にも真っ青な海が見えるよ。だって
Without love, it cannot be seen.
そこにいるのは誰か。
Alright, we're done with this episode. Next time we'll resume this garden scene. So, not much to say this time, but definitely seems there's a lot of like character building. And I'm not sure whether this is building up on the characters that we saw last time, or if this is going to be leading to new outcomes that didn't happen last time. Let's find out next time, shall we? So until then, take care, and I'll see you then.